All right, Eric, this is a big week. Big week for motorsports fans. Sunday. Is this like Super Bowl Sunday for motorsports fans?
Pretty much starts in Monaco, and I think it's like 9 a.m. or whatever it is in the morning, and then you got the Indy 500, and then the NASCAR race at Charlotte that starts at 6, and if it's anything like last year, will end after midnight. So pretty much a full day's worth of racing.
Yes. And matter of fact, we're going to have an Indy 500 preview. You're going to be live from the track on Thursday. So it's probably not going to be able to do a live report because you're just not really sure of when you're going to be able to hook it up. But if for some reason, we feel like we can get it live, we feel like we can set it up live and have a few hours notice. We'll let everybody know, and we'll try to do a live report. But if not, it'll be recorded and available to the fans so they can prepare for the race. Now, what will you not know by that show in order to give predictions?
I should know everything. There's
Okay.
nothing more because there's no on track.
Oh, Eric? We lost Eric first. Oh, you're back, Eric?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep, you're back. I don't know what happened.
Okay. I don't either. I heard you the whole time. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
okay.
Yeah, no, it'll, the only difference will be, just talking to drivers, but they're not going to really say that it's going to sway me from what I've seen for a week and a half. So,
Okay.
should already have everything we need.
It was funny. I was watching, I had the volume off, and I was watching, I guess, at the end of the qualifying. And I saw, I'm assuming it was Ray Hall,
Hmm.
who I didn't know who won qualifying. I just knew it was the end, and it looked to me like the guy that was really emotional had I was just guessing that was the guy who was on the pole. And then I started thinking or saying to myself, well, he's being awfully emotional for winning the pole. Is there something? Now I know these drivers; they freak out over things that I would never freak out over. Maybe whoever it is just real excited. He's on the pole, and he's just so emotional. And then I had to realize later on. I read somewhere later that day that Graham Rahal was, just barely missed getting in. And I remember seeing on the guy's jacket that it looked like it said Rahal, and I didn't know if it was, I just didn't pick up on it. I don't know if it was team or driver. So I figured that's who that was, right? That was Graham Rahal being really dejected that he did not get in the race.
Yes. And,
Okay.
we'll talk about on Thursday because he's back in.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, an unfortunate situation yesterday. Stephen Wilson, driver the 24 car there, wrecked in turn one with Catherine Legg. Wasn't his fault. I put it more on her fault. Broke his vertebrae.
Ooh.
So Ray Hall will race for him now on Sunday. A lot of specifics behind the scenes that went on that I got up on racereonline.net right
Okay.
now. But yeah, he's back in.
All right. Good for him, man. Yeah. Because I thought that was getting a little crazy if the person who won the poll was that excited,
Yeah,
that
no, it was
emotional.
definitely
It's like,
grand.
whoa.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it was an emotional day. I actually, if you look close behind it, you'll see a human that looks like me because it is me. I
Really?
videoed it. I'm still getting I got 426,000 views on it right now and counting.
And where is that?
That's on my Twitter page right now. But it's from Sunday. But yeah, I was standing right next to him, talked to him and his dad for a while afterwards. But yeah, I was just kind of taking a video, just kind of setting the scene so people can see what was going on and what was being said, and it blew up.
Very cool. Excellent. Well, hopefully that'll continue because this is a big race, of course, on Sunday, and we'll talk more about that on Thursday. And then the Monaco race, the F1 Monaco race, CJ will be with us or be with me on Friday for that F1 report. So we have all three races covered today, Thursday, and Friday. here on the channel. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it, and definitely push the like button if you enjoy these videos. Very important for us to grow as a channel. And same thing, share these videos with as many people as you can. That also very important. Let us know what you think too, because questions and comments always a big part of what we do here. Matter of fact, a couple of our viewers from last week, Lewis Lynn, great analysis. This is regarding our video last week of the All-Star race. Paul Moss was excited that we had content back on Tuesday. So he said content on Tuesday with an exclamation point. All right, thanks 3. Is that TX3? What's all right TX3 mean? What am I missing now?
Thanks, and then the 3. I'm not sure. Maybe you hit a button, or it might be.
Okay.
I might know when I see it.
He'll let us know. Paul will let us know. And John DeRosa, one car had 3 Hendrick boys behind him on that restart. I don't know what he was talking about there.
From Darlington. He was right about Chastain, trying to hold off. All the 3 Hendricks were right behind him. Okay. So Hendrick cars. So yeah.
And John donated another couple of bucks last week as well.
John. Yeah.
So always appreciate that, John. And that's from last week. So look, the All-Star race was, I don't know. I mean, I didn't know what to expect myself because I've never seen a race at this racetrack. I haven't been a fan since they left. And I know they're contemplating what to do next at the track. Maybe go back with the All-Star race, or maybe think about a points race. First of all, it wasn't sold out. So that maybe should be important. I don't know. The other thing is, there's no way they can go to this track again, in my mind, for anything unless they fix the short track package.
Yeah.
With the car. Now, if they fix the short track package, I am all for going back to another short track, especially, brings back the good old days of NASCAR racing. And I think that's important for a certain populace of NASCAR fans. I got no problem with that. But you cannot go back to this racetrack with this package unless it's fixed. Nobody wants to see it. I don't care how many people were having fun, what a good time it was there. That's a limited amount of people at the track, period. That's not how you grow fans. You don't grow fans. You grow fans from the television set. And it was absolutely boring. And it was so boring that I'm going to play this clip here from the analysts. This was with about 12 laps to go.
This pack here. If you're looking for something to happen, it might be in this group.
I'm looking for something to happen. Anything, Mike. Just give me something.
I'm the same way. I'm looking this way. I'm looking every which way I can. I don't see anything going on.
I see an engine block down here in turn 1. Right in the middle of the racetrack.
So, not only, Eric, were they, boy, I'm looking for anything to happen. Then he threw in the thing about, I see an engine block. Maybe we could throw some other debris out there to stop the race. When the Fox crew guys, because they kiss more ass to this sport than anybody. When the Fox commentators are slamming the race for boredom, then it's boring.
Yeah. Yeah. It went what I thought it would, in the sense that told you it'd be kind of the spread out, tires falling off type deal. Larson won. We nailed that one too. But I think it's twofold. That racing there, it used to kind of look like that. That's why the crowd's diminished. Like, this is not what we like. It's not what we want to see. It's kind of rural North Carolina, not a lot out there. It just kind of fell by the wayside, and you kind of saw that vintage throwback race. That kind of looked like it used to. I do think it would have been spiced up a little bit more on a points race when you got 40 cars on that track instead of 22, 23, whatever was out there. So that would help in a sense with lap traffic. But I think the glaring issue is the short track package. I think it's terrible. I mean, we talked about this ad nauseum between the Phoenix and Martinsville, Richmond. I mean, it just doesn't race well. Richmond's probably the better of the ones, but everywhere else, it just is proven over and over again that this next gen on a short track is just, this isn't the right way to go. So I don't know what would change next year off this year unless you get more changes done with this car. And they've made changes to the short track package, like we've said, even back in late winter, early spring, and it just doesn't seem to be working. And they got to do something drastic. And what's even more concerning is here is another short track, and the final two races, like I keep banging this drum, is at Martinsville and Phoenix. And there's nothing that leads me to believe at this point going into June that those races are going to be anything. They're not going to be a barn burner. It's going to be probably a blowout like Larson just did on Sunday. What Logano did at Phoenix last year. Yep. So that's a problem. And like you said, this race wasn't. It was for more of your core fan base, your hardcore fan base. It's probably not going to draw any new eyes to it at a race like that, and especially without it lacked the drama, it lacked the passing. There's nothing about that race I think that you're going to get a newbie to like. That's it. That's the NASCAR I like. So
you're better off there wasn't a good showing of viewers, because that would have turned them off.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I will say it's better than anything Texas provides, and getting 5 segments and all that. But I mean, hey, I was pleasantly surprised. I got back from the track, IndyCar, and the Motor Speedway, was finishing up some IndyCar loose ends, and I started writing. I had the race on in the background, and before I knew it, it was 10 to go. And right about this video clip you're showing, I'm like, wow. This thing's over in like an hour. Like it really did fit in that little program time slot. So it could definitely be improved before they come back next year.
Yeah, hopefully they'll figure it out, and we'll look. It's not easy. I understand it, but look, here's the thing that I don't understand too when I'm trying to figure all this stuff out. They talked about they talked about how they weren't sure regarding like the I don't know whether it was the wear of the tire or how the car would perform, say at the track, whatever. And what I don't understand, this is what I don't get with the whole testing procedure, is why is this so difficult? Why aren't they having one of the cars test there at the track? What's the problem?
Well, they actually tested there.
So how do they not know?
Unfortunately, they need to do like a full field test. They test like 3 or 4 cars, and I don't think any of them kind of ran in a group of what to expect.
And are they going like 200 laps and doing it the way they're supposed to, or are they only doing like 20 laps or something, and that's a test?
That we don't know, because they didn't let media there, but for their private test session. But from what I gathered, it was kind of like, hey, one guy goes out and does his little run, and then they'll send somebody else out. They weren't really grouped together, and I think that was part of a major problem in a sense. That, like, I'll use some Indy 500s this weekend. Back in April, IndyCar had literally the full field out here testing. They were all out there.
Yeah.
I don't know why they wouldn't have the full field. And I get like, oh, you don't want to send a full field to Phoenix or Vegas and have to go cross country and spend all the money. And I get they're trying to tighten up, but North Wilkesboro isn't that far from Charlotte.
No.
Or you could have, hey, we're going to open a 2 days, come as you please, get some data. I mean, again, it's a short track too, so you're probably not going to collect even if you crash much damage. So it's just baffling they didn't do that.
Yes.
I think you're kind of asking for what you got because you didn't do that, and you get the effort what you put into it. And I just don't. They put a lot of effort in bringing the track back, but they didn't put much effort, I feel like, in getting testing and making the package right. So, and I would look. I mean, the other thing too, it's not a track on the schedule, so it's not like anybody can't test there and like, oh well, they're going to gain something. Like,
yeah.
It's not on the schedule. What you learn isn't.
But it's for $1 million, so you would think that they would want to test there to try to make $1 million.
And that's another problem with that race is, wasn't it $1 million in like 1992? Can we up the purse of this thing?
Yeah.
Would that maybe make it more intense? But it's like $1 million these days for these guys. Back
Apparently
in 1992, it was good, but there, it's like, hey, I'll just ride a second, whatever. It just seems like that.
I don't know. Unless they fix it, maybe they should go to. They got to go somewhere where you're going to see action. That's all I can say, because you want the action. You want these drivers to be battling each other with the opportunity to win money, where they can know that it's not a points race. So if somebody wrecks, who cares? I know it's a car, but that's not, maybe you're right. Raise the amount so they don't care.
Yeah.
Because that's what we want to see. We want to see them knocking the hell out of each other. And, hey, I got a chance to win X amount of dollars, and I'm going to do whatever I can to get that money. And we're just not seeing those types of races. So.
And honestly, I think they're at the point now that if you're going to keep doing it and you keep moving around and know where it works, and we just move it back to Charlotte and just do it right, a lead in, maybe a weeknight lead into the Coke 600 instead of doing it on a weekend. You got to do something, and it just feels like everywhere they move it, it just doesn't work. I mean, Bristol, the package was terrible. It didn't work there. Texas is the worst track on the schedule. That obviously didn't work there.
Forget that.
And then
how's Charlotte been? How was this race last year?
Really good, really, really good. It went long. That was the one thing that.
Oh, that's right. It went like 14 laps longer.
Yeah, it was like a 5-hour race almost. But there was the most lead changes since 2014.
Okay.
Most cautions since 2005. But by comparison, I got here. There were 4 cautions in 2021 and 8 and 7 respectively in 2020. There was more cautions last year than those 3 races combined. So I feel like the next gen has kind of made its best lasting impression on intermediate tracks like Charlotte. So at this rate, you kind of started it at Charlotte. Let's just put the All-Star race back until you can figure out the short track package.
Yes.
I think just go back to Charlotte.
If we have another great race on Sunday, then hey, this is the perfect track for this car. Yep. Come back next year here. Absolutely.
And it's late spring, early summer. I'd be okay if they wanted to try out a weeknight with that again. The fan base is there anyways. So, 25,000 at Charlotte, you could get that it's not going to look as much to what North World did, but hey, it might make them race harder because they're all right there in their backyard.
Isn't this also, when they go All-Star, the big sports, which NASCAR wants to be, aren't these All-Star deals supposed to be like, again, sort of like a Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Where you have all sorts of different things going on, and events, and sponsors, games. And why can't you do it like that? And again, do it in your backyard. Do it at Charlotte when you know the racing's good with this car.
Exactly. I think they overthought it by moving it around, and I think sometimes the grass isn't always greener.
We want them to move around the championship race. They're doing the opposite of what we're asking them to do. Don't move the All-Star race around. Move the championship race around.
Yeah, and I'm good. I want them to make North Wilkesboro work. That's
absolutely
a classic venue. I believe it needs to be on the schedule, but if you do it the way we just had it, it's not going to last on the schedule long. No. It just won't. It's dated. There's no real easy way to get in and out of there from what I was reading about. Expect traffic, expect delays. They haven't fully done a bunch of updates. And on the track side, it's like they're going to update a little bit to get it going there, but it's like you're not going to spend millions upon millions upon millions if you're not guaranteed to get a cup date, and you don't want to spend millions upon millions to be on the schedule for a couple of years, and it goes away again because nobody's showing up. So I do think a day race would help there at North Wilkesboro because it make it hotter and slicker and you can slip and slide a little bit more. But I also feel like this short track package is it's terrible, and there's no way around it. It's just not a good package.
And they were talking about that, the setup of the tires, but they were like, well, maybe they were being a little bit too conservative because they weren't sure. That's when I was that's when I found out about the lack of testing. But I'm sorry, I'd rather you screw up and go over the line and watch 90% of the cars wreck because the tires aren't holding on than what we saw. So go ahead and do that. Go ahead and be a little bit reckless when it comes to how you're handling the tires. Don't be conservative. Just go ahead.
Well, and that's the track too where because the problem is now they've all got the data from this. So even if you come back like, oh, they all know what tire to bring back to make it better next time. So it's not going to improve the show because all the teams have enough money to figure out like, okay, well, this worked or this didn't work. This is the perfect optimal setup or tire pressure. So now they know it's still not going to fall off. I think maybe, like I've always said, for NASCAR and road courses to do like what IndyCar does, and maybe this oval would be a good spot, is use an alternate tire. Use something that will degrade even quicker.
Sure.
But you have to use a primary and alternate at some point during the race. And when you use it and how the strategy falls, that might help that show up a little bit, and it's a short track. So it's not like it's too dangerous. I wouldn't say try that at Daytona.
No.
But something like that, yeah. But you got to do something because you can't go back with the same product next year as you just did this year. It doesn't sell. I think the people that might have been casuals, the tune in to see what North Wilkesboro is already about. I mean, we already know the first year to the second year, you're going to have a drop off. You naturally do. Everywhere, every new event is all this pub and all this buzz. The second year drops off. The third year usually drops off even more. You got to give them something to want to come back. This past year wasn't. And the short track package is, unless they do drastic changes, it's going to be the same way.
All right. Let's preview the big race for the Cup Series on Sunday, the Coke 600, the big long race, the one that'll be wrapping up the big day. And it probably won't go off until what, like after 10 o'clock?
Oh, yeah. It's probably pushing 11.
11?
More than likely, yeah.
Was it started like 6?
6.
Yeah.
Well, that's TV. You know that. TV coverage is
6:45?
Yeah, it's probably not like 6:30 or something.
Yeah. All right. So taking a look at now, again, the track with the car is different. So you can look at last year or you can look at years past. The last 2 winners started on the pole.
Yep.
3 of the last 9 started on the pole, but 6 of the last 9 started outside the top 4 rows, including 14th, 17th, and 22nd. So it's a nice mixture. If you're on the pole, great. If you're not, you still have a chance, especially for a long race, the Coke 600 race. Only 1 Ford win in the last 10. That was Kozlowski in 2020. So those are some of the key stats at Charlotte. Anything else regarding the track that you think is interesting regarding handicapping wise?
Yeah, I'd say the live betting trend. The second stage, it seems like, because remember, this is basically a 4-stage race. You got 3 stages and you got the final stage. They break it up since it's a longer race. So basically every 100 laps is a stage. It seems like the second stage, you're positioning yourself more for the third and final stage. And what I mean by that is in 3 of the last 4 years of this race, the eventual race winner did not score a stage point in the second stage.
Okay. So it came from nowhere. I mean, on second stage. Okay.
Yeah. So the first stage, though, in 4 of the 6 years, they scored a stage points, including 2 wins. So it tells you they're up front early. They usually will kind of punt on the second stage to position themselves for the third stage and the end, because in all 6 years of the stage area, the eventual race winner scored stage points in the third stage. They finished 10th, first, 7th, first, 10th. So get a guy. So if you're getting to the third stage, if you got a guy that scored stage points in stage 1, didn't in stage 2, and I mean didn't have like an issue. Maybe they just went off sequence, and they're right back there in stage 3. That's probably your race winner.
Okay, cool, like it. And unfortunately, we can't have a track comparison. Because Atlanta is just Atlanta now. Texas stinks. Maybe Las Vegas, but all in all, especially with the 600 miles, it's just And then last year, what was it? How many miles did they go last year?
Oh, I don't have it right in front.
It was like 414 laps, I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say, 414 or 415. That's a mile and a half track, so that would make it, let's just do 414 times 1.5. 600, that sounds right, 621 miles.
Okay, very nice. No Alex Bowman this week, right?
He's dated there week to week. He was on the entry list. He's on the betting odds, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I think he's got to be reevaluated. So he could be. If he's not, then we know Josh Berry will be back in it. So, but I've not seen anything official as of taping our show today that I've seen that he's been 100% confirmed yet. I think they still need to get him reevaluated.
Okay. The odds, the drivers that had the biggest odds difference from last year's Coke 600 to this year's, you have, in a positive way, you got Byron from 12-1 to 5-1. I guess that's not too big a surprise. Hamlin from 12-1 to 6-1. Again, not too much of a surprise. Not sure why he was 12-1 last year with his history at this track. And then he wound up winning. So I hope we won. Hope we picked him. I can't imagine we didn't. So I should check that out. And Bell went from 25 to 11-1 on the odds. And then Wallace seems to always make moves on the odds as well, because he was 70, now he's 18.
Yep.
And those are the ones. And backwards, Blaney was 12, now he's 22. I think that's. Oh, and Harvick was 30, now he's 18. So those are some of the. Yeah, I gotta check and see if I can't imagine with Hamlin winning last year that we didn't cash in on that one.
I remember he wasn't running well this time last year.
Hamlin?
He kind of snuck in. Yeah, I remember he was winless, and I don't know if I can't remember the top of my head, and he might have only had like one top 5 leading into this race.
And he didn't dominate the race either, even though he was on the pole. He only led 15 laps, right?
Yep, 15 total laps a year ago. So he just found himself there in the end, and it's happened a lot of times lately at Charlotte where through the last 6 years, someone stole the win in the end. Austin Dillon led 2 laps in 2017, Keselowski only 21 in 2020, and then Hamlin 15 a year ago. So it's kind of had that balance where somebody either really dominates or somebody steals a win in the end. It just really, there hasn't been an in-between. So I have a feeling this next gen, nobody's going to go out and dominate, though.
All right. Yeah, I agree with that. And we're going to get in, as we get into the picks. Can you believe we did not mutually agree on any one driver?
Wow.
The 3 of us. So, nothing. I think part of that is, once again, I'm eliminating the top couple of guys because I'm not going with those small odds. So that takes me out. And then you guys completely stayed away from long shots. So that takes you guys out. So that combination is the reason why we all couldn't mutually agree. Let me see. You and me, let's see. We agreed on 2 drivers. You want to guess those 2 drivers that you and I agreed on?
Harvick.
Correct.
And Bell?
No.
Let me look who else here. Did I have Reddick? I think I had Reddick.
You had Reddick. I did.
Did you have? You did not. So then
it's
got to be Hamlin.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the only driver I took as far as anybody that was the top 4. He was the only driver I took in the top 4. So, okay, so I don't normally. It's the first time I've ever done this, and it's because I started to notice a trend. So, you're probably, of course, well aware of this, but this is one thing I thought was pretty cool. I found out, and that is, and I just didn't think of that at Charlotte, but apparently, because we talk about this at other racetracks like Richmond and so forth, but apparently, you really have to have experience at Charlotte Motor Speedway to win there.
Yep.
I'm just going to run through the drivers who have won in this race, that are in this race, at one of Charlotte, and how long it took them to get the win. Kyle Larson's 12th race. Denny Hamlin's 31st race, which was last year. Martin Truex Jr.'s 22nd race. Chase Elliott's 9th, which is one of the best. Kevin Harvick's 21st. Keselowski's 9th, also like Elliott, one of the best. And I think that's it. Well, Kyle, where's Kyle Busch in here? Did they say Kyle?
He didn't, but I think it took him a
Oh,
little while
Kyle,
to win.
29th.
Yeah.
And he only has one win out of 34. And Dylan was the smallest at 7th. But as you mentioned, that was like a freak deal. He won the I forget what happened. Why did he win? Why did he steal that race? Do you remember?
Gas mileage. He saved his fuel enough, and I think it was Harvick had a pit with like a couple to go. Handed the lead to him. I ran out and had a pit, and he just coasted to the win.
All right. So, and I don't know if I mentioned Truex 22nd race. So, Elliott 9th, Keselowski 9th. Those are pretty much the normal best. That's why I decided in this race, I'm eliminating all these young, really good drivers that don't have enough experience here. And that's another reason. So anyway, what do you think about that? Are you surprised to know that?
Not really. It seems like Charlotte's that type of track, especially this May race. Granted, it used to have the fall and oval race. Now it's the Roval. You kind of have to pay your dues, it seems like. You have to pay your dues for it lets you in victory lane, kind of how Indy is. So it just rewards the veterans that have been trying long enough. And that's part of the reason I didn't go when we get to him with Byron. He's too up and down, and he's too young, and all the writing says that he should win, but 5-1 was a little steep, and I don't think he's paid enough dues there yet.
All right. So, yeah, let's talk about those two big favorites, Larson and Byron. I would definitely take Larson over Byron, and that's what you did.
Yep.
You put your big money on Larson and Hamlin, and I would, and again, so if I was going to do someone up there, it would definitely be Larson. So I would be totally cool with what you're doing, because Larson has. And by the way, I'm going to say this a lot too, and this is why you'll see also how a lot of these drivers only have started to do better in their last 7 races, in their last 8 races. And, so for instance, Kyle Larson, 5 top 10s in his last 7. Now, when I only say that because I'm not going to go and tell you what he did in those first whatever races, because he didn't do very well. Again, experience. So 5 top 10s in his last 7, 2 of those top 5s, including the Coke 600 dominating win in 2021 when he led from the pole 327 of 400 laps. And then he was 9th last year, unfortunately. And by the way, that was from starting in the back, but and he led 51 laps. So that was a commendable finish for him. But then you look at Byron, 1 top 5 out of 6, crashed last year, didn't do much. With the experience factor and his past performance issues there, why on earth would I even think of going with William Byron at 5-1 this week?
Yeah, and Byron qualifies well there. Like you said, he just doesn't finish well, and he's having a better season. But for the similar nature in their odds, to get Larson, who's coming off an all-star race win, as you said, he won this race in 21. He won the all-star race in 21, and he won this race and won the championship. Granted, the all-star race was at Texas. Can't compare him. But don't you kind of feel like he has the speed like he did in 2021? He just had bad luck to keep him out of more victories. So I thought for the same odds, you just feel better. Or not same, I mean with a point odds. You just feel better with Larson if you think you want to grab some of the Gibbs guys, which I did. So, because you can't have them all. You're not going to just pick all the Larson, Byron, Hamlin, Truex.
Yeah.
You're not going to make money that way.
Yeah.
So I punted on out of the two. It's like you get better odds for Hamlin and Truex. I just don't trust Byron. And granted, I wouldn't be shocked if he won. But as you said, you kind of have to pay your dues. He's only got 1 top 5 finish there. So Larson's the safer play.
Yeah. And I'm saying this as somebody who hit big with William Byron in his last race. So this isn't about favoritism on drivers. This is just about, there's a difference, and that is the fact that, when you're at 5-1, now if he was 9-1, like he was at Darlington, all right, we'll have a different talk here. He's in it. Because I did put money on Elliott at 9-1. So Hamlin 6-1. Again, we both put money. And how could you not? The fact that he had never won here till last year was amazing. 17 top 10s in his last 21 races with 11 top fives, 3 runner-ups, and then the win last year in his 31st attempt. He did it from the pole and yet only led 15 laps. He's 6-1. So that's the only negative, but that's a deserving 6-1. You should just be okay. It is what it is. I mean, this is one of the situations where if NASCAR, and maybe we'll start it up if nobody else does, because I just started doing one and dones in golf, and I have a lot of fun with that. So if we ever have like a one and done contest in NASCAR, when you can only use one driver once during the season, this would be the race you would pick Denny Hamlin for, the race at Charlotte. So
yeah, he's good there, and I feel like he's a guy that always performs in crown jewel type races, because this is a crown jewel NASCAR schedule. There's some drivers that rise to the occasion there, and there's others that don't. Teaser for later. Hamlin has, and this just is a good track for him. He's running well. He's got a lot of speed. Toyotas historically have been really good at Charlotte. They've been really good on a mile and a half last year, and again this year they've kind of proven that way. So 6-1, even though it's low, but you got to take him.
All right. Now, Truex 8-1, Elliott 9-1, and you put money on Truex. You're the only one to put money on Truex. 9 top 10s in his last 12, with 7 top 5s, a runner-up, and 3 wins, including 2 Coke 600s. What I'm a little bit concerned with are those last 2 races, and really his last 3. He hasn't led a lap the last 3 races, no top 10s the last 2 races, including 12th last year. While Elliott's 9-1, the reason why, and I wasn't really sure if I was going to take him, but he is trending in the right direction. He did lead 86 laps in this race last year, and he does have 5 top 5s in his last 7 with 3 runner-ups and a win. And with that type of resume, that early in his career at this track, kind of leads you to believe he's going to have the Denny Hamlin resume by the time he gets to his 31st race.
Yeah, the only thing, Truex was a tough read because, as you say, he hasn't led the last 3. Prior to that, he led 1,050 laps there in a short period. So he could either really dominate or really suck. But with him being better this year, Toyotas across the board, I just feel like for a guy that this place was once his playground, one time he had 8 top 6 finishes in a 9-race span, which included 2 wins, a runner-up, and a pair of third-place finishes, and those last 1,050 laps led. It's like, I'll take him 8-1, just because I'd feel bad. I'd be kicking myself if I didn't. Elliott is really good at Charlotte, really good in the 600, but he hasn't won the 600. His win was on the 500-mile race in the COVID year, and I looked into him and a little bit deeper, as I mentioned about drivers performing in crown jewels. Elliott, for some reason, never has. He's 0 for 8 in the Daytona 500, 1 top 5, 0 for 6 in the Brickyard 400, when that was the 400 on the oval. He had 1 top 10 finish, 0 for 7 in the Bristol night race, 0 for 8 in the Southern 500 with 1 top 5 finish, and he's 0 for 8 in the Coca-Cola 600. So he's combined all that. That's what, 16, 24, 37. He's 0 for 37 in NASCAR crown jewel races. So it could end, but I just didn't trust it until he shows me he can win a crown jewel. I'll hold off on him.
Yeah, the thing with Truex, like you said, is who knows, maybe he's on the pole, and he ends up as the favorite of the race by the time we get to Sunday. That's possible because, like you said, I mean, we know he's definitely, especially with the win, and maybe he should have had 2 wins. Because we talked about his futures being really good, and they still are. I mean, the fact that you could still get Martin Truex Jr. at 12-1 is one of the top bargains that's available right now for championship drivers. All right.
Yeah, and I also I got it right here now. 5 of the last 8 Coke 600s were won by a Toyota team, and the only few they didn't, 2020, Keselowski won the 600 race. Chase Elliott won the second oval race. Granted, it's not the 600, but he won. In 2021, Chevy dominated again, 5 of the top 6 finishing spots. Toyota was right there next. They had 2 cars in the top 7, so it was a Chevy-Toyota event. But then you get to last year, and it's like Toyota resurfaced. Hamlin was first. Kyle was second. Bell was fifth. They had 3 of the top 5 with them. 23-11. They even led last with Kurt Busch and Bubba. So it just seemed like Toyota just seemed to be the better back to what they were at Charlotte in the 600. So I thought I'm going to go with, I got to take out of the Hendrick. Larson, I felt best of the 3. And I went ahead and went with the other, the Gibbs guys just to cover those tracks that way too.
You know what? I feel a lot better, without question, taking Truex over Byron based on the odds.
Absolutely.
So, I wouldn't even think twice about what I would do there. All right. Now you have Chastain and Bell, and you took Bell. I took Chastain. So now Chastain does not have a top 10 in 5 Cup races, but he had a really good day for the most part last year, leading 153 laps. And he ended up 15th. If you take a look at his last Xfinity Series race, which was in 2020, up to that point, he had no top 10s at his first 10 Xfinity Series races at Charlotte. He ended his Xfinity career with a 4th place finish from the pole, leading 68 laps. So in his last 2 races, one at Xfinity, one at Cup, he's had a really good showing. And so now we're getting into the point where the odds are also coming into effect, where the odds are fine, getting 10-1. Bell falls under that category I talked about. I'm just going to go with he's too inexperienced. It would be his 5th. It would be his 5th race in the Cup, and that would best every driver here. Nobody's done it in their fifth attempt. So I'm staying away for that. But 5th last year, 3 Xfinity Series races, very good in all 3. Could have had top 5s in all 3 if it wasn't for a wreck in his last, I believe, Xfinity Series race when he led 33 laps. So knows how to race here. It's just a matter of time. But I'm just going to side on the fact that I want to see him race a few more years here before I go down that path.
Yeah, I wanted the young thing, but I thought for 11-1, and if I was going to go in with Toyota, I might as well throw him in there too with double-digit odds and the top 5 last year and 9th in 2020. So I went in his direction. Chastain, the only thing that scared me with him, he led 153 laps last year, so he was up there. It's just what we talked about in last week's show of them sitting him down and reeling him in a little bit. I just wonder how aggressive he truly is going to be if you got to be aggressive at the end to win this thing, especially if you get a late race restart, which you seem to get on these tracks a lot. So I thought if it's in your head, you're going to be a step off, and if you're a step off, it's going to be the difference between a win. So I just wondered how he would race with that. So that's really the only reason I put it on, because you're still getting the points leader for 10-1. So
and look, in all honesty, there wasn't anytime you have a handicapping trend like this that I just talked about, you can't go all in and just completely wipe out everything else. It's got to be a part of it. And so I added a couple of drivers that didn't have a whole lot of experience, like Chastain and another driver, but Bell. I had a pick, and I decided I was going to pick Chastain over Bell based on the fact that, that was a pretty impressive run he had last year. Bell hasn't had that yet, but it's like, you can't, just like you said, you can't pick them all. They're both 1st and 2nd in points. And that's the reason, and that's the way I just chose Chastain and you chose Bell. So it could go either way. I don't think you could be wrong either way. And the odds, look, you could take them both and eliminate one of the heavy guys if you want. Like, let's say if you don't want to take a Larson, then there's more money for you to take Chastain if you took Bell or vice versa. Kyle's also 11-1, but why I just mentioned he has 1 win in 34 races, and he did that from the pole. He led 377 of 400 laps. Boy, those are the good old days at Charlotte when it was boring.
Yeah, it was over before it started.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard for me to go. I mean, again, only 1 win, but he does have, and look, he's got 16 top 5s out of 34, so he's very good there. It's just that, once again, we get into that 11-1 number. Who are you going to take? Are you going to take Chastain, Bell, or Kyle? And Kyle, we talked about it last week even. It's just, I don't know. I mean, he's got a couple of wins, but I don't know if he's ready for a third win. He's just not. He hasn't been that good for him to have a third win already this season. So I don't know. I just, like I said, I just think that you have to pick one or two of them, and I just couldn't go with Kyle.
Same. The 11-1. I mean, the last few weeks he's been like 16-1, 18-1. It's like now he's 11-1. It just, I wanted to take him. I was looking for reasons. I found plenty of reasons. He was third in 2021, second last year, 3-2-1 this Sunday. Does that equate to a win? But however, that was with Gibbs. That was with Toyota. We just talked about how strong Toyotas were. This ride, which is probably, I could correlate this to the next guy we'll talk about, was Reddick at 16-1. Reddick had 3 top 10 finishes in 4 Charlotte Oval tries. The only one he didn't was not the 600. It was the 500-mile race that they ran in 2020 as well. He was 8th, 9th, and 6th respectively. So Kyle's inheriting a good ride, and he's been good at Charlotte. However, do you really think he's going to win at 11-1? That's where it was difficult for me, because if you look at Richard Childress Racing's wins lately, they've been on road courses or super speedways. So are they going to necessarily just win at Charlotte? Yes, Austin Dillon won there, but that was a few years ago, and that was on a fuel mileage gamble. So at 11-1, I thought was just too steep for a guy that lately has been priced between 16 and 18-1. I thought it was way too steep. The spot saying that, so I was like, I tried, but you're better off grabbing Reddick, who's winning a Toyota, who I just talked about how good Toyotas were. Kurt Busch led laps in that car last year, and he's got 3 straight top 10s and as many tries in the Coca-Cola 600. And now you're giving him a Toyota power plant. So I think your better value is just going down a little bit to 16-1 with Tyler Reddick.
Yeah, and I would have considered Reddick as well, but again, he's only been in there 4 times, so the experience factor. 6th last year, as you mentioned, 3 top 10s, 2 top 5s, and a win in 4 Xfinity Series races as well. Matter of fact, he led 110 laps in his 2019 win in the Xfinity Series. So the combination of both series leads you to believe that he really does like Charlotte Motor Speedway, and it is just a matter of time. The difference, though, is you are getting 16-1, as you mentioned. So, and again, Kyle, it took him his 29th race to get a first win. So now we're going to expect a second win. It's the experience factor counts, but you also have to take into consideration when it took you 29 races to get your first win somewhere. As much as you've been really good for the most part with all those top 5s and all those laps led, that's just one win, and that's just not at 11-1 when you can take someone, like you said, at 16-1.
Yeah, just didn't make that much sense that I go in that direction. So, yeah, you get better value, so you might as well take the value while you can.
All right, now we both have Harvick, and to me, this is a no-brainer. Yep. And this was one of my, I guess I had 1, 2, 3, 4 top picks. This was one of them. 10 top 5s, 3 wins in 40 races. He's got 2 Coke 600 wins. It took him his 21st race to get his first one. Last year finished 3rd. Most importantly, a couple of things. He was that strong. Well, look, he had his car banged up, and he still finished 2nd at Darlington. 14 top 10s in his last 16. The only 2 that he didn't finish in the top 10 in the last 16, he had engine issues and crashed. That includes 8 top 5s, 3 runner-ups, and 2 wins. And he's led 605 laps over his career. 599 of those 605 laps happened over those last 16 races. So it took him a while. Once he's figured out Charlotte, he's really figured it out. And you're getting 18-1 coming off a second place finish at Darlington. So I am all over Kevin Harvick this week.
Absolutely. And he was 3rd in this race last year. And it's like, that's crazy. He's 18-1 and he comes in with that momentum. And he was good there last year with a similar car and similar package. So, yeah, no brainer. And then you look at, if you break it down, just the 600, you take the fall race or the 2020 race out of it as far as the oval package. The last 10 Coke 600s was 1st, 2nd, 9th, 2nd, 8th, 40th, how you talked about, 10th, 5th, 10th, 3rd. He's always in the top 10 there. He's a great play for a top 10. probably a top 5 prop if you can snag him, because at 18-1, I think Kevin Harvick has a really good shot of winning this race on Sunday.
The other 18-1 shots, we don't know if Bowman's going to race, but even if he does, like we said with Elliott, you got to see him, especially if he ends up in a long race like this after an injury. I don't know why, unless he gets lucky late in the race. But, this is a good track for Bowman. He led 164 laps in the 20 Coke 600. And he does have 4 top 10s and 1 top 5 in his last 6 races, but just not the time to take him if he ends up racing on Sunday. But I did go with Bubba Wallace, who, I don't know if you noticed, but I actually put money on Bubba Wallace last week for the futures.
I saw that.
At 100-1. I said, you know what? Why not? For 1 week, I don't have to touch him again. And he's just started, he's found something. And he's got the 5th and the 4th, and he's doing it also not just at a track that you would normally expect him to. I know the Darlington 5th, he didn't have any prior experience there, did he?
I think he just had 1 top 10 total.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So that's why I don't care about his limited experience here as well. This is more of I know he's only been there 6 times and led 1 lap, which means nothing. And he hasn't finished a race in 50% of them at Charlotte.
Yep.
But I'm just going to go in the fact that he's actually done pretty well in the Xfinity Series here. He's done really well lately, and I'm getting 18-1 because there's still, I think we're in a time, and we've seen it over and over this year so far, where not always the best driver is going to win a race. And so that's why when you're now going an extra 100 miles and you're going to have the longest race of the year, that means that maybe we'll even have more crazier stuff happen. Could be the opposite. Maybe the longer the race, the better the drivers will come through. But if it does offer some more kind of parity, then I think based on how Wallace has driven lately, I was willing to roll the dice on him at 18-1.
Absolutely. If I was out of the money by the time I got to him. Because if you punt on any of the favorites up top, then you're going to take some. Let's say you take 2 of the 3, or 3 of the 4, whatever. You got some room. He's the one to go with for the same reasons I said to take Reddick and Bell and Truex and Hamlin. It's because of the Toyota combination. They're good there. They provide good race cars, so we know he'll have a good race car. And as you said, I could get past. He's got 3 DNFs his last 4 there. But he's also come into this weekend with 3 straight top 5 finishes on the season, if you include the All-Star race. Just finished runner-up. So, and Charlotte's an older surface now. It's starting to get some wear, and you look at Darlington's an older surface top 5. North Wilkesboro's an older surface runner-up. This is a good week for 18-1 to snag him. You just feel like a win is kind of around the corner with him. You just feel like it's sniffing. It's there. And this would be a huge win for him, and it gets him in the playoffs, and the momentum's going. So I feel like his balance now is, can he keep this momentum? Can he do something not to lose it? Because we saw how down he was earlier in the year. Basically was questioning whether he should even be in that ride. Now it's crescendoed back up. Now you got to do everything in your power to keep it. This is a good track to make it happen for Toyota. So for 18-1, I definitely take a few bucks and throw his way.
By the way, speaking of these 18-1 drivers in Bowman, now because you have Wallace on your fantasy team.
Yep.
And again, with those finishes, he's starting to. Matter of fact, we had points for the All-Star race, so you got some decent runner-up points with Wallace. But Bowman, so you've got Almirola filling in for him. So what are you going to do if Bowman comes back and he's ready to race on Sunday? You're switching right back to Bowman?
Yeah, I'd switch back to him. I don't think he'll necessarily win. This is a good track for him.
Yeah.
I mean,
and Almirola stinks.
His last 6. He does. So I would ride with Bowman when he comes back. Remember, he was good before he got injured. I think 600 miles sitting in a race car might be a little long for him to necessarily win.
Yeah.
But he's got capability for a top 10. There's a reason that he's been most weeks sitting there at 25 to 30 to 35 to 1 when he's been so good. And now they've got him 18-1, and we don't even know whether he's fully racing or not. So I think that says something. I would definitely, if it comes out that he's back. So that way to make you an easy decision for you. If you see he's back, you don't even need to ask.
Yeah.
I want him back.
That's what I figured.
We'll see what happens.
All right. Penske teammates, Logano and Blaney at 22-1. And this is just all about Ford, as we mentioned, 1 win, last 10 or whatever we said. Logano, it took him his 14th race to get a win. He has 1 win. Keep in mind, since that win, he has raced 10 times at Charlotte, just 1 top 5. That was a runner-up. So it seems to be hit or miss with a lot of misses at Charlotte. Crashed last year, and it's not like he's going well right now. So that was an immediate pass. But I am going to use Blaney for sure. I'm trying to take advantage of the number. And I'm also looking at the fact, okay, I think what will happen is you got the Ford, and that's what people are looking at. But Blaney, if we're talking about experienced drivers here now, in his last 7, he's got 3 top 10s and 2 top 5s. So that leads me to believe that he's at the point now where he's got the experience at this track, and he's also been racing better at some of the tracks that he hasn't necessarily had good resumes at recently. Not top 5s, but hanging around top 10s. That's all you do at tracks that you don't have good experience. Give me a 10th, give me a 12th, give me an 8th. That's fine. That's what he's been doing lately. And even if you take a look at his Xfinity Series record, 4 top 10s, 3 top 5s, and a win in 6 of those races, led 161 laps. In his last 2 Xfinity Series races, he finished 3rd and 1st, leading a combined 145. So I just look at this as a perfect opportunity with a driver right now that has 4 top 10s in his last 5 with 2 top 5s and a runner-up to take advantage of that big number and to say, you know what? Yeah, I think if another Ford can do it, I could see Blaney bucking that trend on Sunday.
Yeah, he's a better play of the two because, like you said, he had a pair of third-place finishes in 2020. Granted, maybe only top 5 finishes and 12 oval starts there, but he was still 3rd. And you look at Logano in this race, his last 10 Charlotte Oval starts, 21st, 22nd, 2nd, 13th, 17th, and 20th in his last 6 Coke 600 tries. I just don't feel like he's shown enough on a non-super speedway track to merit taking him still. So Blaney's definitely the way to play. Oddly enough, you would think, so Roger Penske's got 18 Indy 500 wins. So you think of the Indy 500, you think Roger Penske. You know he's never swept Memorial Day weekend in the same year.
Okay.
It seems weird. So since 1974, the 500, Indy 500, and the Coke 600 were held in the same day. That was the first year that started. And Penske, despite 18 Indy 500 wins, or 17 in that time frame, because he won 72, I hear. So 17 of his 18 wins have come since this. He's never won the Coke 600 in the same day.
Interesting.
And he's only won the Coke 600 twice, 2010 and 2020. So do we line him up this year? We'll see. I think Blaney could, if Joseph Newgarden, Will Power, Scott McLaughlin win the Indy 500, Blaney's probably your best shot to give them the double.
All right. And then again, remember, CJ and Eric do not have any more picks. So Harvick was your top long shot at 18-1. Yep. I added 5 long shots. Suarez, Keselowski, Buescher, Stenhouse Jr., and Briscoe. Suarez, for me, was kind of easy as a long shot because of the fact that Trackhouse last year did really well. We talked about Chastain. Suarez led 36 laps last year before he crashed. And if you take a look at his Xfinity record, 4 top 10s, 2 top 5s, and 5 of those races, and he led 111 laps in his last Xfinity Series race back in 2017 from the pole, so he knows how to race there. I know he's not going well, but we're talking about 35-1, so it's just a couple of bucks there. And also, I put a couple of bucks on Keselowski at 40-1. The winner, as we said, the last one for Ford and Penske in 2020. That was his 9th career race at Charlotte, which was okay. He's got 2 wins there, 1 Coke 600. It doesn't have a great resume, even though he has a couple of wins. Not a great one, but Keselowski, and by the way, I mentioned Buescher, have both. If you take a look at their last 4 races, Keselowski 4th, 8th, and 5th. Buescher 10th, 9th, and 3rd. So both of them are in a nice kind of run right now over the last 4 races, and they both have decent enough history at this track, including Buescher, who has 3 top 10s in his last 5, that's the reason I took both Buescher and Keselowski. I mentioned Suarez, and I'll just run it out. I did Stenhouse because he has 4 top 10s and 2 top 5s in his last 6 races, 12 top 15s in 18 races over his career, even though he's only led 3 laps. Throw in the Xfinity Series, 3 top 10s, 1 top 5, with 68 laps led in 7 of those races. And he has 6 straight top 15s on the season. Briscoe was just more of a Buck thing. I had a Buck. I'll put it on Briscoe. He was 4th last year, and he also had some success in the Xfinity Series. So I don't expect Briscoe to win. But when you have some decent experience here in both series, and I got an extra buck to throw in there, I'll do that for Briscoe. So what did you think about those 5 and anyone else that I didn't mention?
Yeah, I like them all. I like that the 4 driver 100-1 odds. If I had didn't wager everything up top, I probably would have done $2 on each of those to win,
including
100.
Dylan.
Yeah, Dylan, former winner, we mentioned, and it was kind of fluky, but he's got 2 top 8 finishes his last 3 starts there, and he was leading the end of last year's race. Coming to the white, remember, he got wrecked while leading.
Oh, that's right.
So for 100-1, he knows how to get it done. And we talked about how good Reddick was as a teammate. So he's worth a dollar or two his way for those odds. And the only other one that I like, actually there's 2. The Front Row Motorsports camp, granted, is the Front Row Motorsports team going to really win the 600? Debatable. But we've just talked about some fluke finishes there. McDowell at 300-1 was 8th last year. Finished 8th, top 10. So he's 300-1.
Well, maybe you can get good top 10 odds then on him too.
He'd be a good one. And then good old Todd Gilliland at 1,000-1.
1,000-1, yeah.
16th last year. But if you look at his finishes this year and how much improved he's been, if they could go off strategy, 1,000-1, throw $1, you're going to win $1,000. So, or $999, basically, you'd be a profit in the end. But Front Row's been decent, and McDowell was 8th as a teammate last year. He was 16th as a rookie. Now he knows what to do. Granted, we just talked about the youth, but 1,000-1.
That's crazy. Yeah.
People have stolen victories here in 3 of the last 6 years. So,
it's in a way, and I'm not. I know this isn't changing, but in a way, the Coke 600 is really more indicative of what the Super Bowl race of NASCAR should be.
Yes.
Because the Daytona 500 has become such a fluke that we've had fluky drivers win. It sours the trophy. If anybody can win, what does that mean? But this race, being as long as it is, this is the one that really, they've had a fluke here or there, but that's just going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it. This really is the test.
Yes.
All right. By the way,
600 miles. Yeah, it's definitely a test, and you've seen the bigger. There's a few fluky guys that could win this, but usually it's the bigger names of the bigger teams, and it's more in the driver's hands than the Daytona. That it's just more of a lottery. So yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Gibbs at 60-1. He's never run Cup. First and second in both Xfinity Series races over the last 2 years, but he's only led 20 laps, so it's not like he's dominated the racetrack. And again, I don't even know how far you'd have to go back. I don't even know if anybody's ever won this race without a appearance. So
yeah, and as you talked, that's the only reason I didn't choose him. I'm on that Gibbs camp is that reason. It's like, is a rookie really going to come out and win the first 600? Just
no. He doesn't even have a top 5 this year.
No, and you got to think his team. And he has run better,
sure.
But and the Toyota's going to win. You got to think it'd be his 3 teammates in the 22311 cars over a rookie. So I feel better about their odds than his.
And Jimmy Johnson's racing?
Yeah, he'll be back. It's weird to see him at the odds he's at, but again, he hasn't won in a long time.
As well he should be.
And that team's struggling this year overall. So I just don't see why Jimmy Johnson will be the the first one to win for him already.
And really, all the other long shots are just you're wasting your money based on experience and past results. It's not there. It's not there for any of the other guys that we haven't mentioned. So, matter of fact, McDowell was the only one you mentioned there. Burton did finish 11th last year, so that was good for him. But that's it. I mean, there's really nothing else to talk about regarding long shots. Okay, so the schedule. Oh, no, we're back to Illinois next week?
Yep, Gateway.
Oh, that's just – nothing's going to change, right? There's nothing they could do to make that any better?
No, it's just kind of is what it is.
All right. Well, that's going to be next week, unfortunately. Then we go to Road Course Sonoma, Nashville.
Yep. A week off in Nashville, so yeah.
What was Nashville?
It's a week off. And
it is
Nashville.
A week off. Okay.
Yep.
How was Nashville last year?
A lot better. Remember, that was when you had the rain delay, and then you had the caution in the end. Chase ended up winning, but the Gibbs guys pit at the end. They probably should have stayed out. And,
okay. So it was
better.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have the Chicago race.
Yep, Chicago street race.
So you have a lot of weird races coming up after this one.
Yes. Yep. It's going to be a weird
5 weeks.
Yeah, it might be some weird winners, or maybe the bigger teams stick out. That's what will remain to be seen. But if there's a chance for some fluky winners, it's probably going to come in the next month.
And then once we get to Atlanta, that's going to be the start of the last run to the playoffs, because that's going to be 7 races till the playoffs at that point.
I believe
7
so.
or 8, and then because you get the fluky races behind you. Everything else is, yes, you're going to have a couple of back-to-back road courses, which I still think is a terrible idea. I mean, they got the last 3 races before the playoffs. You have 2 road courses in Daytona. I mean, I just don't think that makes any sense. So
talking about more fluke random stuff that could happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean,
you're going to be on edge if you haven't won a race by then. I'll say that.
That is true. That would be very interesting. We should root for that. So the more drama, the better.
Some big name guys that haven't won by that point would be nice.
I mean, we want Elliott to get in, because that's always going to boost up traffic and everybody's excitement. Yep. But it'd be nice if he had to sweat it out a little bit.
Exactly. Win at Daytona or win Watkins Glen, that's coming up, which he has done multiple times there, that kind of sweats it out and gets it in at the end. And because that'll be a big storyline. If he hasn't won by that point, that's a huge storyline.
Now, again, we're going to return on Thursday for the Indy 500 preview. And I'll tell you right now, I'll probably make an appearance, because I want to pick your brain personally on some of the drivers and the picks and things of that nature. So I'll be sure to interrupt you at some point during your report. And again, it'll be on Thursday, so check that out. That's why you need to subscribe. By the way, click the bell button on the subscribed banner, because this way that adds to the fact that whenever we have a show that is, especially when one is live, you'll get a notice and you'll get a ding that you'll be able to know. But just subscribe. That's the main thing. And then the F1 report from Monaco and CJ will be on Friday. So it's going to be a fun week. You're going to be busy at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Things have already been very exciting for you. You had that first question to, was it Alex Palou?
Yeah.
After the road course win?
Palou. And then talked to Kyle Larson and Jeff Gordon last week. They were here. I got that in, and So,
well, I tell you what, when I start contacting these indie media guys in the off season for next season, I better not have to remind them who you are. That's all I know.
Yeah, they should know. Yeah,
I think they know by now.
Yeah,
and it's time for them. It's time for them to step up and in the off season and give us even just 5 or 10 minutes of interviews with these guys. I think you've earned it.
Yep. I think we're there.
All right, Eric. Appreciate your time as always. Enjoy the rest of the week at Indianapolis, and we'll talk to you next Tuesday when we talk about Illinois.
Yep. Sounds good.